So, getting back to my previous point about moving on to religion, religion I see is a lot like nationalism in the sense that it's based mostly on culture. People don't generally adhere to a religion that doesn't somehow connect with their culture, usually. Um, and I think we're now in a part in the last 100 years where that started to change. People are leaving their cultures to find a sense of belief in something that is outside of what they've known. And I think part of that is because they see things in other cultures' religions that are missing in their own. And I think also part of it is a sense of mysticism, oh, it's different, therefore there's something there I haven't seen before. And I think a lot of it's based in ignorance. But that's not to say that people's belief in religion or need for it is ignorant. I mean, it's just... But then that's an argument of morality. Do we have morality without religion? I would say, of course we do. Morality really is more of a physical thing, if anything, but most people don't see it that way. And what I mean is that, you have two people, one of them hits another, and that person feels the pain. So he hits the other person. Now they both feel the pain. They've realized that when they hit each other, it causes pain, and so they've come to this agreement not to do so. And this is kind of like a base for morality, is it's not doing things because you know what doing those things to other people is like when they're done to you. Which in a form is selfish, but I think over time it evolves into we don't do these things because it's not to say that it's not right, but it's a sense of empathy. And so I think empathy and morality, they play an important part. And when it comes to religion, I think, I would submit that 99% of people on earth are not very orthodox to their religion. Christians, I know there are a lot of Christians out there who act like real Christians, and I know that the right or the Republicans are kind of assumed to be mostly, the Christian right. They're white, they're Christian, and the thing is they're not mostly white. That's ridiculous. And they're not mostly Christian. Do I believe in Christianity? I would actually submit that, most religions are like this piece of a giant jigsaw puzzle. And, because would God come down and just tell this sect of people on this part of the earth the truth to how things are supposed to be, but not everyone else? And that to me seems ridiculous, if I were this all-seeing God, which I don't claim to even understand how that would think, but, I don't think I would just tell these guys over here and eventually it'll whittle on to the rest of the world, but that doesn't really make sense to me. People don't really adhere to their faith, the right now is and I can't speak for all of them, but I know enough of... They just seem so pro-war, and I don't understand it. And I almost think a lot of it is this thing against Islam, which is weird to me, because Islam and Christianity are so closely knitted together. And I know a lot of people would argue with that, but I don't know how many people have read the Bible and the Quran. Most of the people I know that have read both tend to have a pretty good understanding of why there should be no fighting among these two religions. It's crazy. One could submit that we have a common enemy. I mean, if you were to just go by theological, like these checkpoints, what do these religions call for? And I think most religions always have this idea of religious supremacy in the end times, which I think is just pride. And Christianity, their thing is, tribulation's going to come and they get to go to heaven while the earth basically burns. And, but then if you look at whose religion is looking to subjugate the world, because Islam doesn't look to subjugate the world, Christianity doesn't really look to subjugate the world, but Judaism definitely does. And, with all the things going on in the world right now, it's funny that there's this common denominator between the Western world and the Islamic world. And it's these two brother faiths basically being forced to attack one another, and being done through deception. And I won't even say anything about the culprit. I think that most of us understand that when your motto is through deception thou shalt do war, that pretty much says everything that needs to be said. So, and I know these videos, they're not great quality. I don't really care. I'm not looking to monetize them. Just trying to get thoughts out there. And they might not be the most organized, but that's basically what conversation is. I'm not looking to prepare speeches or to even change anyone's mind so much as just, if we all realize that we don't know anything, even our faiths. My child came to me when he was 5 years old and asked me about God, and I said, well, do you know anyone that's ever died? No. I say, has anyone ever died and come back? No. Not really. I mean, not die for a minute and come back, but, I said, well, then how would we know? How would we know? It's really just, in people's faith, I mean, I understand it, but you have to admit that people get angry when their faith is challenged. But people don't get angry when facts are challenged. And the reason for that is because your faith is not a fact. And that's not to say that any faith I have is a fact. No one's faith is a fact. It's all just what we feel. It's what we want to believe. And, but faith is, it's you wanting to believe in something because you're getting something from it. You're getting something out of it. And when people challenge that, and I think this is being redundant in the grand scheme of the conversation, but when people challenge that, and you are forced to question it, people, they lose their minds. And so what we, as humans, really need to get past is this sense of ego. You can have your faith, you can believe what you can believe, but I believe you can also have that challenged. And these things can be done in conversations and not lead to conflict. Usually, generally. And I would even say that I've had many conversations with Muslims about their faith and my faith and whatever, and it's always been very very pleasant. And it's only usually with Christians that they tend to get angry, and even when you're not disputing facts about Christianity, but like mentioning something about Christianity that someone else maybe isn't aware of and they don't believe, and they get angry. And I've had Christians want to fight me, which is ironic, but okay. And that's kind of what leads me to this thought about Christianity is, none of you are really Christians, all of you that call yourself Christians. I mean, maybe a few of you are, but if you're supporting the war, if you're supporting this corporatist agenda, even border patrol, listen, I understand economics, and I understand that we have to control the flow of immigration. And we cannot have socialism with immigration, because you cannot open your borders and say, all right, there's 7 billion, 8 billion people in the world, everyone come to America and we're going to give you free everything. It's the stupidest thing I've ever heard of. And the progressives, there's so many great things in the Progressive Party, like this whole anti-racist agenda and all this, and everyone's equal and blah blah blah. But these are tricks. These are things that anybody would agree with on any side of the spectrum, except you're extremist. But this open borders thing, it's ridiculous. But that being said, we are a nation of immigrants, and somehow we've lost this narrative. Yes, we want immigrants. We need immigrants. We are past the point in our population. People are not reproducing enough, and so we've reached this point in our population where it's just going to steadily keep declining. America will not exist without immigration. Unless maybe we were to somehow stop spending so much money on war and devoting that money to more like family-oriented social programs. But, but then you've had the change in society that, is a huge debate about, sexism. Women can vote, they're equal, they have power, they're going to join the military, they're serving in the political field, and that's great, but I'm not too clear on many examples in history where this has actually not led to the destruction of a nation. So I guess we'll see. Women have entered the political field in America, and minorities, and it's all great, but has anything gotten better? I mean, honestly, the whole reason people wanted a different look to the politicians is because they thought they would get different politics. And that's not happening, it's just war. And as Americans, if you cannot be honest with yourself, like, listen, all these wars going on, it's not just for billionaires and oil companies because they all got to have the newest, hottest G6, G7, whatever. It's because of sustainability. As American people, you've become fat, lazy, spoiled pieces of shit. And if they cannot sustain the level of resources that you're used to, then America's going to freak out. And that's the thing. America will not have a revolution when they realize that we are worse than Nazi Germany. We're starving 20 million people in Yemen. We've caused 40,000 deaths in Venezuela so far. Not to mention Syria, Libya, Afghanistan, Iraq, blah, 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 blah. I could go on forever. I mean, we are terrorizing the world right now, and no one cares. No one's like, oh my God, we're just becoming the ultimate evil empire of the world. We've got to stop for the soul of America. No, none of you care. But when gas prices get above $3, you're all going to freak out and hit the streets and demand change. And, fuck you all for that.